हाँ जी, good morning guys. I'm audible to you. Audible. Okay. हाँ जी, everybody. Right. Okay. I had to very much hurry up, right, in order to be on time. Okay, let's begin the session for today. We do not have that much important thing in the front page, but there are certain important things that are there in the editorial page. So I'm going to directly go to the editorial page and let's try to discuss something. Now, this is a particular article that is there in front of us. I think everybody could see. Disentangling the 2030 global renewable energy target. Now, this is a particular very important article in the context of environment. So I'm going to go into a little deep detail related to this particular topic of global renewable energy in the context of India as well, and overall perspective if I have to talk about renewable energy. Now, right now this is a very important article, so let's relax, sit back and enjoy this particular session because it's going to be helpful for you guys. Okay, now one of the important thing that we need to understand is that we know that we are suffering from a major phenomena, that is climate change, right? Climate change is absolutely there. As a result, temperatures are increasing. This is one of the things that we need to understand. Plus, one of the another thing that we need to understand along with this is that it is causing a lot of impacts, right? So what could be the impacts that if I can say of climate change? Let's say it could be floods, it could be droughts, rise in sea level, melting of glaciers, right? Poverty, inequality, right? All these aspects I can relate it to the impacts of climate change. So this particular thing was identified by UNFCCC, that is United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, and it is one of the most important organizations that we have in the context of climate change. That was an outcome of Earth Summit 1992. Now these things are very, very important. Try to understand it, right? So this United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change was one of the outcomes of the Earth Summit 1992. It is also known as Rio Summit. Now every year we have a conference of parties, that is the highest decision making body that takes decisions regarding to climate change under the aegis of यूनाइटेड नेशन फ्रेमवर्क कन्वेंशन ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज. हर साल अगर हम बात करें इनकी कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑफ पार्टीज होती है, दैट इज द हाईएस्ट डिसीजन मेकिंग बॉडी. नाउ there are certain conference of parties that are very, very important when I have to talk about UNFCCC. Now what are those conference of parties? So let me highlight those conference of parties. Those are COP3, COP21, COP26, right? So these are the three most important conference of parties that have happened till now. Now COP3 was in Kyoto, COP21 was in Paris, and COP26 was in Glasgow. Now, if I talk about COP3, it is very important and useful. Why? Because it laid the foundation for Kyoto Protocol. Very important. भाई यहाँ से हमारा एक बहुत important protocol आया जिसका नाम क्या था? Kyoto Protocol. Now, Kyoto Protocol was very, very important because it recognized, yes, climate change is happening and we need to reduce the carbon emissions. So as a result, this particular protocol was enacted. I can tell you the year as well. This was 1997. Now under the aegis of Kyoto Protocol, it was identified that developed countries are the historic polluters. Very important. कि जो developed countries है ना, वो पहले से अगर हम बात करें, they are the ones that have been historic polluters. So it is ऑब्वियसली कि अगर हमें अभी क्लाइमेट चेंज को रोकना है, अगर हमें कार्बन एमिशंस को कम करना है, तो हम रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी किसके ऊपर ले डाउन करें? सो इट वाज डिसाइडेड दैट अंडर क्योटो प्रोटोकॉल द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वुड बी पुट ऑन द डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज. सो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज had binding targets in Kyoto in order to reduce the carbon emissions. This thing is very important. So it was put on the developed countries that they need to now reduce their emissions, and they were given certain binding targets. But if I talk about for the context of developing countries, it was voluntary for them, very important. उनके लिए voluntary कर दिया था, but इनके लिए binding कर दिया था under Kyoto. But it was a thing that was recognized that every developed country that is a part of Kyoto Protocol has to now reduce certain amount of carbon emissions. Now this was what we call it as Kyoto Protocol, and the implementation period of Kyoto Protocol was from 2008 to 2020. दो phases के अंदर चला है. अगर हम बात करते हैं Kyoto Protocol की, it started from 2008 and it went till 2020. Now another major thing that happened was in COP21, that happened in Paris. Now it was recognized that overall that we need to reduce the climate change increase to maximum 2 degree or possibly even limit it to 1.5 degree. Now in order to achieve this particular aspect, one was, let's say, conceptualize the thing that every country would now have to submit their INDCs, and every country would have to work according to their INDCs. So an important concept, INDC, that came in COP19, that happened in Warsaw. That particular term was INDC, where every country has to now submit certain amount of its INDCs, that what would be their progress in achieving, let's say, द पेरिस एग्रीमेंट. क्योंकि पेरिस एग्रीमेंट की अगर हम बात करें, अब सिर्फ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज की नहीं थी, अब यहां पे दोनों का पार्टिसिपेशन हुआ, डेवलप्ड का भी और डेवलपिंग का भी. सो इट वाज अ पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ डेवलप्ड as well as the developing countries, that they both now have to reduce their carbon emissions. So this was the thing that was decided under Paris Agreement. And how countries would be performing? They would be performing according to their INDCs, which they would be declaring after every 5 years. So in this context, the journey started from where each and every country decided that we need to invest significant amount of our investments, and we need to shift our energy from fossil fuel based energy to renewable energy. This laid the foundation, if we say technically, all over the world, where each and every country said that now we have to give certain transition towards this clean forms of energy. So under INDCs, when they were announced in 2015 by India, when they were announced by India in 2015, some of the INDCs were very important, that we would be generating 40% renewable energy by 2030. Very important. ये हमारा target था. Then we also made a target that we will reduce our emission intensity by 33 to 35%. Very important. And then we had another more target, that we will be creating a 2.5 to 3 billion ton of carbon dioxide sink. So this was our INDCs that we declared, basically, if we talk about in October 2015. But one of the thing you need to understand is that they have to be updated after every 5 years. It is not binding, but yes, the INDCs countries have to update after every 5 years. It is given in the context of Paris Agreement. So in COP26 at Glasgow, it was our Prime Minister who addressed from the Indian side this particular conference. ज़्यादातर अगर हम बात करें एनवायरमेंट मिनिस्टर होते हैं जो एड्रेस करते हैं, बट अगर हम यहाँ पे बात करें तो हमारे प्रधानमंत्री थे जिन्होंने इस ग्लासगो मीटिंग को एड्रेस किया. एंड इन दिस ग्लासगो मीटिंग, आवर प्राइम मिनिस्टर famously declared 5 Panch Amrit that over the period of time will become part of our INDCs. Now what were these Panch Amrit? Let's try to understand. These Panch Amrit were that we said it was a part of our revised INDC as well. First Panchamrit was 50% renewable energy by 2030. Second thing, emission intensity by 45%. Third thing, that was net zero emissions by 2070. Now these were the three main Panchamrit that was declared by our Prime Minister at the Glasgow meeting at COP26 in the year 2021. That is, we will generate 50% of renewable energy by 2030, 45% we will reduce the carbon emission intensity, and net zero emissions by 2070. There was one more, if I can talk about 500 gigawatt of non-renewable, let's say, sorry, अगर हम बात कर रहे हैं क्लीन एनर्जी की बात करी थी हमने बाय 2030. Now in this particular context it becomes very important to understand now the concept that how over the period of time we gonna achieve this particular targets of getting the renewable energy and extracting so much amount from this particular perspective. Now one thing you need to understand, now COP26 happened in Glasgow. Now there would be another meeting that would be happening in where COP28, that is this year, it is going to happen in Dubai, right? So this was in 2021 and this is going to happen in 2023, and there is a particular thing that the countries might say over there, each developed and developing countries over the period of time, that over here that the countries need to triple their renewable energy target. This could be the thing that could be vouched over here, that the countries would be expected to triple their renewable energy target, or we can say global target, right? So one of the thing we need to understand is that most of the developed countries like USA, they were not part of the Paris Agreement earlier, right? And one of the thing we need to understand is that they are not have, let's say, shifted to majorly to renewable energy. They have not given such targets that are being given by India, that India has given, as we have seen in this particular Panch Amrit. So India has to be very much absolutely sure that whether it wants to be a part of this particular initiative that could be announced in the COP28. Because one thing you need to understand is when we talk about that we have to shift away from fossil fuel based energy to renewable energy, it is a difficult task, because right now if in India, if I talk about 70% of our energy requirements are met by coal or thermal power plants. So it would be very difficult over the period of time if we commit that we want to triple our renewable energy target. So this thing will become very, very difficult. So we have to be very much vigilant about it. We have to be very much careful about it, and we need to understand that if we want to transition to such a renewable energy, such huge amounts of renewable energy, we require a lot of, let's say, potential of money, investment, we need a lot of finance, and we need new technology as well. So everything that had to be done, it has to be done in a very phased manner. That is why India has set up the targets that it has set for them, like net zero emissions by 2070, because India also knows that suddenly it cannot directly go from, let's say, fossil fuels to renewable energy, and also they cannot be expected कि यार वो एकदम से अपनी triple कर देंगे renewable energy target को. So this was also a bone of contention that was there in G20 as well, where G20 the countries were, let's say, discussing on this particular agenda whether they need to phase out the fossil fuels or not. Yes, this was a particular agenda, but this was not the thing that became the outcome. Rather, the outcome was related to increase in the finance in the field of renewable energy. So these are certain aspects that we need to understand. Yes, renewable energy is important. Renewable energy is important for achieving our goals, but we have to see to our India's capacity as well, whether over the period of time India has the capacity, the money, finance and the technology that we would be able to, let's say, achieve the targets that they have set upon themselves for the Panchamrit. And in COP28, if they go for the, let's say, tripling of the target, whether they would be able to achieve this or not. So this is a big question that is going to be there in COP28, right guys? I hope you were able to understand this. I have given you a quick brief account of, let's say, what has happened in the context of climate change. Now, one of the things you need to understand is there is a lot of data that is being given in the editorial. So you need to pick up those data, the global solar potential, global hydropower potential, the specific context of USA as well, and you need to extract that thing and need to put it in your notes as well, because those are the things that can help you, let's say, get the majority of marks, because these type of questions generally come in the mains examination as well. I will tell you how, because there was one question last year in UPSC 2022 mains whether India would be able to achieve 50% of its renewable energy by 2030. Now this was a question that was asked in the exam, that whether India would be able to achieve 50% of its renewable energy by 2030. So such type of questions are generally asked in the exam. So you need to be vigilant about it, careful about it, and you need to know the analysis as well, right? So and along with that, if such type of questions are coming, you have to provide certain facts and figures as well. Then only you can value addition your answer. I hope I am making sense and this article is absolutely clear to you. Okay. Now, the next article if I talk about is changing the way the postman knocks. Now, one of the things that they are talking about over here is they are changing the new, introducing a new bill that will change the way which India Post Service provide their postal service, right? So in this particular context, there is not much enough that we need to go into the details. You need to know certain things related to this particular India Post. What are those things? Let's try to understand. Now, from the examination point of view, because it is a bill only, so we need not to go into the detail. What are the advantages that you get in India Post, right? One of the things that you need to understand over in this particular perspective, right? आजकल आप बात बोलोगे सर अगर हमें कहीं पे किसी जगह पे लेट्स से वी हैव टू सेंड समथिंग, वी हैव टू सेंड लेट्स से कोरियर, देन वी कैन गो फॉर द एक्सप्रेस डिलीवरीज दैट आर प्रोवाइडेड बाय द प्राइवेट स्फीयर एज वेल. सो देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ प्राइवेट पार्टिसिपेशन दैट हैज कम in this field of particularly when I talk about courier services, right? Earlier there used to be only, if I can talk about India Post, that was providing these services, but now there is a lot of, let's say we can say courier services that are being provided by the private sector as well. Now one thing we need to understand is that still today, even when we talk about India Post, it has its quite significance. I will tell you why. So they are changing a lot of things as well, but why they are, let's say, still sticking with this India Post, I will tell you that let's say one or two things. The first thing is last mile connectivity. This thing is very important because there are certain areas in our countries where it is very difficult to go by roads as well, right? So there are no roads as well, but still we have seen certain incidences where, let's say, this is a particular house where a post has to be delivered, and it is there in the let's say very extreme cold conditions of Srinagar, and let's say this is the post office over here. This is the post office of local branch in a particular district in Srinagar, and this is the main branch of, let's say, post office in Srinagar, and let's say this is the area from Delhi from where post is going towards the Srinagar. So someone has posted a post, let's say it has gone to the post office of main post office of Srinagar. From there it has went to this local district because there was particular address that belonged to this particular district. And I will tell you one thing, there was one particular, I could say, before this science page used to come in Hindu newspaper, before let's say 5 to 6 months ago, there was one beautiful story that was narrated in this particular incidence of Srinagar, where women, a particular working in a local branch in a district in a Srinagar, went on, let's say, on his foot and deliver the letters by themselves to the people. Very important, on extreme snowy conditions. But if I talk about the private sector, I don't think so that they would be indulging to such a margin and to such a pain in, let's say, reaching to that particular region. So one thing that I can still say is that it is providing the last mile connectivity. Second thing that is absolutely important when we talk about India Post is that there are certain people who do not enjoy the banking services given by the banks, but they still have certain money that they invest in the post offices. Very important. And being a post office, if it is close to their house, if it is close to their village, if it is close to their area, block or tehsil, they are able to get the services of the India Post. So this thing is also very important, that they try to bring in, let's say, banking services, or you can say they are helping in financial inclusion as well, right? So these are important things that we need to understand. Plus, if I can talk about on a personal level, it has a person to person touch as well. Very important. You must have seen when we used to get excited when we were in our childhood, when a postman used to deliver a letter to our home, right? So we were familiar with the people as well. But now that thing has a little bit changed. But still, if you get, let's say, the news that you have been appointed, right? So a particular post would come, that, let's say, a particular letter, might be that particular letter that would be coming to your house would be coming from this particular India Post as well, right? So these are certain things that we need to understand. It brings smile to our faces, and so as a result we have to maintain the reliability and the feasibility of the India Post. That is why they are trying to introduce so many changes in the new India Post bill. So this is a particular perspective that they have given over here. So I thought that it's better that I discuss with you guys, right? Okay. अब ये बेसिकली साइंस की फील्ड में एक अवार्ड दिया जाता है, शांति स्वरूप भटनागर प्राइज, राइट? So this thing you need to understand that what for the field the price is being given. You can see this particular price is given to scientists under the age of 45 with outstanding work in the field of biology, chemistry, engineering, maths, medicine, earth sciences and physical sciences. So these are the fields in which this particular Shanti Swaroop Bhatnagar award is particularly given, and this winners have been announced by CSIR, that is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and it is given to the people who are under the 45 years of age. I'm telling you, such type of questions get appear in, let's say, UPSC as well, and they might get appear, if I can talk about, in, let's say, the state civil services exam as well. So you need to be very much clear when I talk about this particular aspect, that from which particular purpose this Shanti Swaroop Bhatnagar prizes are given. These are basically given for the purpose in the excellence in the field of scientist as well, so that we are able to nurture a young pool of scientists, so that over the period of time they would help in the growth and development of the nation in the field of space and technology, science and development, medical science, biomedical science, in all those aspects, right? Chaliye. Now, nothing important over here. अब ये ट्रिवेल्स हैं गिग वर्कर्स के, अगर आप देख सकते हो यहाँ पे कितने घंटे काम करते हैं अगर हम बात करें तो इन्होंने बड़ा ब्यूटीफुल तरीके से एक एक्सपेरिमेंट किया है और यहाँ पे एक डेटा प्रोवाइड किया है कि उन्होंने बेसिकली अगर हम बात करें कि क्यों अगर हम बात करें गिग वर्कर्स ज्वाइन करते हैं फूड डिलीवरी प्लेटफॉर्म्स को, राइट? सो दिस अ पर्टिकुलर सर्वे दैट हैज बीन टोल्ड ओवर हियर दैट वन ऑफ द रीजन इज हायर इनकम. Then they talk about independence, flexible work hour, regular receipt of payments, salary in bank accounts, preferable work environment, right? So these are the things that they have entered over here. Now how they enter the food delivery platform? Mostly have entered through offline interview, right? So this is the thing that they have tried to tell, कितने घंटे का काम होता है, कितने hours of work, number of working days in a week, right? Number of deliveries can be increased if worker tries harder. तो यहाँ पे बता रहे हैं कि strongly agree. So this is all the data that has been given in the context of the gig workers. So the thing I want to tell you that gig workers are so much in news. I am saying this year in UPSC mains there would be a question on the gig workers or on the labor security or on the social security. This is a thing that is absolutely for sure because it has been in so much news that what are gig workers. I think everybody knows कि जो किसी particular platform के साथ associated हैं और वो delivery based services provide करते हैं, right? So you can think about Zomato, you can think about Blinkit, you can think about Swiggy. So all those things come under the gig worker category. और एक चीज उनको होती है कि उनको एक साइड इनकम का भरोसा मिल जाता है जब when they are employed in this particular type of profession, right? Okay. अब ये तो जवान के ऊपर है, ठीक है? आई होप किसने किसने जवान देखी है? ठीक है, मैंने तो देखी नहीं है. ओके, यहाँ पे कुछ इतना खास नहीं है अगर हम बात करें, ठीक है, वही चीजें चल रही हैं. अब ये बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है, ये ना आपके लिए बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. आई विल टेल यू व्हाई. दिस इज अ पर्टिकुलर स्कीम बाय द नेम ऑफ प्रधानमंत्री मत्स्य संपद योजना. वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, प्रधानमंत्री मत्स्य संपद योजना. नाउ दे हैव गिवन ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ 3 years हाउ दिस पर्टिकुलर स्कीम हैज बीन सक्सेसफुल. देयर आर वेरियस केस instances where they have tried to tell the feasibility of the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana. So one thing that comes absolutely to our mind is that it is related to fisheries sector, right? So it is obviously related to fisheries sector, but one of the important thing you need to understand is it is related to introduction of reforms in the food processing sector when we talk about in the fisheries department. जो हम fisheries sector की बात करें वहां पे better food processing हो, storage proper हो, कोल्ड स्टोरेज हो, पोस्ट हार्वेस्ट लॉस कम हो, ऑगमेंटेशन हो, इनकम हो फार्मर्स की, नई टेक्नोलॉजी हो, जो वेस्ट फील्ड्स हैं उनको आप एक्वाकल्चर में चेंज कर पा रहे हो. ऑल द थिंग्स दैट कम्स अंडर द पार्ट ऑफ द प्रधानमंत्री मत्स्य संपद योजना. एंड दे हैव नाउ गिवन ओवर एग्जांपल्स हाउ वेरियस पीपल फ्रॉम वेरियस रीजन्स हैव एब्सोल्युटली बीन एबल टू गेट द प्रॉपर, लेट्स से इफ आई कैन से अबाउट द प्रॉपर utilization and of the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana, right? So this thing is very important. There are certain things that have been given, let's say like this. Young women entrepreneurs from Kashmir Valley are efficiently rearing cold water rainbow trout using a recirculatory aquaculture system. Aquapreneurs in Nellore have become successful reporters thanks to biofloc cultivated shrimps, right? Almost 20,000 hectares of fresh pond area in the state of Rajasthan and Haryana has been brought under inland aquaculture. So these are the types of case studies that they have mentioned over here. So let's say if a question comes in the exam that is trying to talk about the success or critically evaluate Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana, then these are the case studies that you need to mention, right? So you need to mention and note down in your notes that what are the various case studies that we can talk about the success of the Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampad Yojana. And if I talk you through, this is a direct mains question. Mains question. क्योंकि इंडिया की अगर हम आज बात करें, इंडिया टॉप 3 कंट्रीज के अंदर आता है जब मैं फिश प्रोडक्शन की बात करता हूं या एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्शन की बात करता हूं, राइट? सो दिस थिंग इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके जी, नाउ आई थिंक नथिंग इंपॉर्टेंट ओवर हियर एंड वी आर डन विद द टुडेज एनालिसिस, राइट? सो थैंक यू सो मच गाइज, एंड any doubt you has, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'm going to end the session. Thank you so much. You have been a lovely audience, and we will see each other tomorrow, same time, 9 a.m. Till then, take care. Bye-bye and enjoy your day. For the growth services sector, देखो सर्विसेज सेक्टर का ग्रोथ तो हमारे देश में होगा ही होगा, ऑब्वियसली बात है. सर्विसेज सेक्टर तो हर चीज के अंदर है. जब प्राइमरी एंड सेकेंडरी सेक्टर ग्रो करता है तो सर्विस सेक्टर भी ग्रो करता है. ये चीज आपको समझनी होगी. ओके, एनी अदर डाउट? चलिए, थैंक यू सो मच, टेक केयर एंड बाय बाय.